Yeah, first of all, I would like to say congratulations to the hosts for organizing this very, very important exchange of discussion items. Thank you very much also for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to give a bit of insight into a Toyota perspective. Now, as a representative of a car-making company, you may expect that I predominantly will talk about car making, which will not happen. So, as my preceding speech was basically introducing very nicely into the subject I want to go into. So if you look at the title, the impact on the automotive industry, a Toyota perspective, to basically find out what could be an impact from the pandemic, from the new normal on automotive, I think it makes sense to go back to the time before the pandemic came. There were environmental awareness factors that played a significant role in all considerations in transformation things or trends that happened already. There was this continuous analysis of new consumer behavior. So obviously there are statistics enough to confirm that new consumer behavior changes the way of the industry. Then there is traffic chaos, especially in urban environments. There is missing mobility solutions, especially when you look into Germany, where 80% of the population is residing in non-urban areas. So if you look into the city of Berlin, for example, there is a lot of public transportation which is more or less well covering many of the mobility needs. But if you go outside of the city, then you're left alone very often, and you cannot at all leave your own individual footprint in let's say, CO2 awareness change and go into new mobility solutions. And of course, a very strong similarity between the Japanese society and the German one. There is a demographic transition going on in the society, which also provides that we need to deal with different mobility perspectives in the future. So this is all before the pandemic came. What was or what is a role that Toyota is playing in this? Well, first of all, the group has a global vision. The global vision is very well phrased by our president and CEO. He wants to create the mobility society of the future, and especially he also says we want to provide mobility for all, not only for a distinguished group of people. Mobility for all, that should include all members of the society. And his clear guideline to all worldwide operations in the group is he wants to transform the car-making company into a mobility company. Secondly, the group has a sustainable strategy, and this is called in our group the Environmental Challenge 2050, which means by 2050, the worldwide fleet of Toyota globally should have a reduction in CO2 emission by 90%. And the flagship technology development in that aspect is certainly the fuel cell technology, where there is a technology leadership. Thirdly, there is technology leadership and there is access and development of digital mobility solutions. First of all, hybrid. There is the pioneership of hybrid technology by Toyota. There is vehicle, so battery electric vehicle and plug-in hybrid vehicle development of the group. There is a combination of e-mobility with new mobility solutions, especially for urban areas. There is the fuel cell development and the chicken and egg question that is all over the place. Who is first, the infrastructure provider or the customer? I strongly believe that with the access of fuel cell technology into heavy-duty transport and public transportation, the network will develop from that aspect and give access to fuel cell infrastructure also for private individuals in future. Certainly there is research and development extensively on autonomous driving. We have an own research center in Silicon Valley, and we have access and own developments of micromobility solutions, which are then building a bridge from a pure transportation solution into other aspects of mobility. Now, building an ecosystem, that has been said before, and that is also becoming more and more dominant in our DNA. What does it mean? It is manifesting itself into our global project that has been presented by Akio Toyoda at the CES in Las Vegas recently. It is the Woven City. So check it out, what you can find at the bottom of Mount Fuji. There is a brand new, totally newly created city being developed with many of the aspects that everyone is talking about, like all these personal mobility things, like micromobility solutions, car technology, robotics in the house, smart home solutions, app mobility certainly, healthcare, generation living, environmental aspects, self-sustainable energy supply through fuel cell technology, not only for mobility, but also for houses, and many, many more. So basically, the ecosystem is built in Japan as a global project. Now, what does it mean when you talk about local operations like in Germany? How does it translate into projects? Well, first of all, I'm a representative of Toyota Financial Services, which means we are taking on mobility projects here. And we even have launched a new brand in the group, a third brand besides Toyota and Lexus that is called Kinto, which should be the flagship brand family for all mobility solutions in the future. Now, the translation into local mobility solutions, we call it the residential ecosystem, and it's basically a district mobility concept. We have considerations, mainly environmental, but also socioeconomic, and that has been said before. It's still an ongoing trend of urbanization. Cost of living is a factor that is not being reflected in traditional industry so much. Traffic chaos, of course, mobility developments by many, many players in the market, sharing economy, like representing the new consumer behavior, especially younger people talk about sharing economy. However, having said that, I'm personally not sure if any new developments have to be associated with the younger generation only, especially older generation have the same mobility needs, have the same socioeconomic needs. So not sure if that is an age thing that we talk about. I think the whole society has to become a transforming generation, basically. We have a demographic development. With that, there come different healthcare needs and generation conflicts. I mean, let's be honest, you can talk about mobility, you can talk about economic factors in the car-making industry, but in the end of the day, the more dominating things are environment, but also generation living. It's basically in every second family a major subject, and combining those things and many others, that is clearly a factor. We have done a project, a global pitch basically within the group, and the idea is look at Silicon Valley, look at autonomous driving. It is basically being tested, it is being researched on, and as Dr. Scheel said, it is more than just a technology. It's about social factors and other things that need research there. Now, if we are not even able to build bus lanes in many of our cities, how can we seriously talk about autonomous driving in our cities? So that's why, in combination with all the other factors that I've been talking about, we thought about, let's build a city. Let's build a city in which we can create all the infrastructural setups in a way that, for example, autonomous driving becomes possible. That connected housing is not a €1 billion investment after everything is ready, but it is created from scratch in a new way. So that is a project that built the bedrock for something that in Germany we really are in cooperation already with city districts in Berlin, in Cologne, in Munich, and also more on the countryside. We have partnerships with real estate developers. We have partnerships with political bodies, and we have partnerships with others, like energy suppliers. So we are becoming a conglomerate of partners that talk about more than just cars, that talk about more than just living, but they create a combination of all those things. Now, why does it make this so interesting for us? That is because these considerations in terms of living and lifestyle and technology development of the Toyota Group, they are now coming together, and together with the mobility solutions. We have various verticals, and added to that will be furthers in future. This is a common denominator where everything that is being developed, and we highly respect all the developments, especially in the digital mobility world, and also on the car technology side, also outside of the Toyota world. But what I'm not seeing so much is a combination of those things. And if you start combining those, then you may, I'm sure we are making a big step towards another way of thinking that has been presented before also. So this is the common denominator for us, district mobility, because all those things that are being under development at the moment get together in these concepts. Here in Berlin, there is an ecosystem where we start partnering with real estate developers in terms of being in the construction phase, being in the concept phase in the first place, not being called for a mobility or a car sharing solution when everything is ready, but being partnering with them when the concept of new district starts. But also, let's be honest, we want to deliver solutions not only in 10 years when a new city district is being ready for the residents. We also want to create new ecosystems in existing environments at the moment. And this is where I would call it the island of Berlin is a perfect situation where we have, even from our brand perspective, a very good network for services and logistics. And we have a network with real estate operators who then can basically offer to their residents mobility solutions as a package. So living, leisure time, working needs, plus mobility solutions out of one hand. That is basically the idea behind that. Now, this is a long story before we come to what does it do basically to us, the pandemic. Well, let's look at trends in the pandemic, and I don't want to repeat what many people write in the papers every day. You can see that at least on a temporary basis, there is a lower priority on these environmental aspects because there is a higher priority on economic aspects at the moment. There is a strong things, I'm not judging here, it's just an observation. Travel restrictions and certainly dominating safety measures like public transport is going down, and individual car usage is at least temporarily going up, which means that is in total contrast to the things that a mobility provider would like to work on, and many others, of course. So what is an impact that this could have on the mobility transformation of a car maker or also of other players in the markets? Economic power will only slowly return. I'm being moderate here. You can paint dark pictures here, but it will come back, but it will take a lot longer than we may think at the moment. On the good side of that is to be optimistic. There will be new business model being developing. The major inventions in history all came from situations that were tragic or not really comfortable. So that provides innovation. And many of the market players who are losing business, who need to adjust their business models at the moment, they will create new business models. I'm pretty sure about that. The socioeconomic trends that I've been talking about, they will clearly continue. That there is no break in that. It may just be an interruption. Traffic situation will get worse, especially if individual mobility or car usage goes up, and the environmental subjects certainly remain relevant. Now, to an automotive company like us, what does it do? My clear view is, having said all the above, like mobility, transformation, and partnerships, I'm sure that sustainable technology development becomes even more relevant than before, because the pandemic and its fallout will end one day, and we will have to go back to forward thinking, not only in times of economic recovery and well-being of the people, but also in terms of environmental factors. Which means for us that diversification of business models will be clearly a success factor, and the connection of sustainable technology and customer-focused digital solutions will clearly be a USP in the future. So if you are able as a company not to concentrate on your traditional, let's say, bread and butter business, but also go into new ways and new cooperations, then you may have a chance to survive all this, and not only this, but also to build your business for the future. And the cooperation with partners outside of the automotive industry, like we do here in Berlin and in other cities, that will have an impact on the value chain, and that is a very strong factor. And my conclusion is, if you are setting as an automotive company priorities like that, then you will have a chance to be resilient against a pandemic or other external factors. But it needs change, and I would say that car makers who will embody this change and go beyond their car making, and not only beyond car making, also beyond the technology optimization, in order to take on the real challenges of the future, then the real challenges of the society, then my conviction is that projects like we do, a combination between mobility and living, is clearly a way forward. So in addition, sustainable change requires less dependency. When I talk about Germany and look at the German automotive industry, I would say it requires less dependency on the traditional car technology, and like first signs are visible already, governmental support programs go into more sustainable technology development. Will that be groundbreaking and visible for all the people? Only once the dependency of many employees in the industry is less dependent on traditional technology. That is clearly my view on those things. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak here on behalf of Toyota. If you are interested in any of the details of our projects in terms of mobility and partnerships with cities, I'm more than happy to share information and to discuss with you on a bilateral basis as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate to be here, and thank you.